The candy shop was usually quiet after closing, but on this night, Eve stayed late to finish counting stock. The store lights were dimmed, the jars were lined up neatly, and the only sound was the soft hum of the refrigerator in the corner. Eve liked the peaceful late hours because they gave her time to think. She had already dealt with strange candy, invisible thieves, and secret wall dwellers, so she expected nothing more than numbers and quiet. Then the front doorbell rang. Eve frowned and glanced at the clock. It was almost midnight. She walked toward the door and found a tall figure standing outside in the reflection of the glass, wearing a long coat and a wide hat. The person did not move. Eve opened the door just a little. "We're closed," she said. The figure lifted its head. It was an old man with pale hands and very bright eyes. "I only need one thing," he said. "The candy you keep behind the counter." Eve felt a chill. She had never seen him before, and something about his voice felt too calm, almost rehearsed. "We don't sell at midnight," she replied. The old man smiled. "This is not a normal purchase." Eve should have shut the door then and there, but curiosity always followed her like a shadow. She let the man step inside. He looked around the store as if he already knew every shelf, every jar, and every hiding place. "I was told," he said, "that this shop keeps special sweets for special guests." Eve folded her arms. "Who told you that?" He did not answer. Instead, he pointed to the back counter, where a small drawer held the unusual candies she had been keeping locked away. Truth candy, vanishing candy, and a few others she had not yet fully tested. The man's gaze fixed on that drawer with such intensity that Eve immediately stepped in front of it. "You can't have those." His smile faded. "I didn't say I wanted them for myself." A strange silence filled the room. Then Eve noticed something else. His shadow did not match his body. It seemed longer, thinner, and slightly delayed, as if it was moving half a second behind him. Eve's stomach tightened. "Who are you really?" The old man tilted his head. "A customer," he said. "The last one you should ever invite inside." Before Eve could answer, the shop lights flickered once, then twice. A jar on the shelf rattled, then another. The air in the room grew cold enough to make the glass fog over. Eve stepped back as the old man slowly reached into his coat and pulled out a tiny silver spoon. "No," Eve whispered. He tapped the spoon against the counter, and every candy jar in the shop gave a soft ringing sound, as if responding to a hidden signal. The sugar dust on the floor began to swirl in little circles. Somewhere in the back room, something banged against the wall. Eve grabbed a flashlight from under the register and shone it toward the man. For 1 second, his face changed. The human features were still there, but behind them, she saw something older, stranger, and not entirely solid. His eyes reflected the shop lights like two small moons. Tommy rushed out from the storage room, half awake and holding a broom. "What's happening?" Eve pointed. "Do not offer him anything." The old man looked at Tommy and smiled politely. "I was hoping there would be witnesses." That sentence made Eve's skin prickle. Eve moved fast. She locked the drawer, switched off the front display lights, and opened the cabinet where she kept the emergency sweets. Most of them were harmless, but one small jar had a label she had not fully understood. Lantern candy. Reveals what lurks in the dark. She had never used it before. Tommy saw the jar and swallowed hard. "Are you sure about that?" "No," Eve said, "but I'm more worried about him." She opened the jar, and the candy inside glowed like tiny golden embers. The light spread across the floor, along the shelves and under the counter. Wherever it touched, hidden shapes began to appear. First, the old man's shadow split into 3. Then a second outline appeared behind him, tall and bent, with long fingers reaching toward the candy shelves. The figure was not human at all. The old man's expression changed for the first time. "So you do know what is in this shop?" Eve lifted her chin. "Enough to know you're not getting it." The shadow behind him stretched closer, but the lantern candy light pushed it back. The jars stopped shaking. The air grew warmer. Tommy raised the broom like a weapon, though he still looked terrified. Eve understood now. The midnight customer had not come for sweets. He had come for the hidden magic behind them. The old man backed slowly toward the door, but the shadow behind him tried one last time to reach for the glowing jar. Eve moved first. She tossed a handful of sugar crystals onto the floor, and the lantern light flashed so brightly that the shadow recoiled as if burned. Tomi slammed the broom handle against the counter, and the old man stumbled backward into the night. The bell over the door rang once, then silence returned. For several minutes, no one spoke. Eve stayed where she was, clutching the glowing jar until the light faded into a soft, warm pulse. When she finally looked at Tomi, he was pale.
"Did that really just happen?"
he asked. Eve nodded. "Yes."
"What was he?"
Eve looked at the dark window, where only her reflection remained. Someone who knew the shop had secrets. She locked every drawer, checked every shelf, and placed the lantern candy in a special box for later study. The candy shop was no longer just a place where strange things arrived by accident. Now it was a place something was actively searching. Before turning off the lights, Eve wrote a note in her notebook. "The midnight visitor will return. Be ready." Then she locked the door and stood in the quiet store, feeling that the next danger was already waiting just beyond the glass.